The hotel I died in didn't look like all that much from the outside. Old stone and new glass. The non-Dormiunt wanted to appear classic. Personally, I figured it was trying too hard. A Four Seasons knockoff. Hollywood, California aspirations with Hollywood, Florida style. The sign on the front desk read, "Back in 8 minutes." I wasn't sure if a font could be sarcastic, but if it could, the little sign was dripping with it. Luckily, I saw a skinny guy further behind the desk, doing some kind of inventory on keys hanging from the wall. "Reservation for 1706? I said, loudly ringing the bell to get the man's attention. The shiny brass name tag pinned to his red vest simply said, "Concierge." Adjusting round, gold-rimmed glasses, the concierge smiled politely. "I'm sorry, but we don't take reservations on floor 17 of the Hotel Non-Dormiunt," he told me. "How nice for you, but that's what it says right here." I pushed the screen of my phone towards his face. "Room 1706, right?" The concierge's smile dropped. He began to quietly peck at the computer behind the worn welcome desk. "My apologies," he replied, sliding me an old key. "It seems you're correct." I winked, took the key, and slouched my way toward the bar to meet Abby. The hotel hadn't done much to impress me, but the bar? It was quality. Well, that and quantity. Liquor lined the mirrored shelves in a translucent rainbow of whiskey reds and gin blues. A small chalkboard hanging next to the mirror proclaimed every hour a happy hour. Drink prices fulfilled that promise. The guy behind the bar, he seemed less quality. Wearing the same red vest as the concierge and a brass name tag, bartender, but with the addition of an old-fashioned white medical mask. The man never seemed to fully come into the light. Not that I was spending much time looking at the bartender, considering what Abby was wearing. She was poured into the dress, tight and smooth, black and backless. I could see the small movements of the muscles dance between her shoulder blades when she laughed. Her hair was blonde this week, her skin flawless. She was young and pretty and all mine. "Did you get the key?" she whispered to me as we sat at the bar waiting for our second round of drinks. Well, my second round. Her voice was already whiskey-washed. I imagined she'd gotten a head start on me. I slid the key over to her. "Sure, but what in the world were you thinking picking this dump?" Abby shrugged those perfect shoulders. "It was a great deal. I got an email advert for the place out of the blue, and it seemed just right for, you know." She gave me a cat-eyed smirk as the bartender served our drinks. Abby tipped hers back in one go, then signaled for another. "I've got to powder my nose," she giggled, stumbling away. "What brings you to the hotel?" I looked up from my beer to find the bartender regarding me. Blue eyes like sunken candles above his mask. I took another drink before responding. "Business," I muttered. The bartender began making Abby's next drink. "Your friend work with you?" "What makes you think she's my friend? Maybe she's my wife." I couldn't see the bartender's mouth, but I could sense him smile. "Apologies, it's just the age difference. And of course, you're wearing a ring, and she is not." "You're observant," I said through gritted teeth. He shrugged. "Nature of the job." I sipped at my beer. "Say, if I wanted to order room service later, strawberries, champagne, all that fun stuff, how late do you deliver?" "Depends where your room is." "Huh. That's odd," I replied. "We're in 1706. The bartender's eyebrows ticked up. "I didn't know floor 17 was open again." "Yeah, you and the guy at the check-in both seem pretty ill-informed about the goings-on of your own place of employment," I said. "I suppose you have me there, sir," he replied, leaning on the bar. His eyes were much, much greener than I had initially thought, and they had me pinned to my seat. "Thing is, there's a very good reason that floor 17 has been closed for reservations for a very long time. The concierge must have told you about the incident." I cleared my throat. "Nothing was mentioned, no." "About 20 years ago, 3 visitors, not guests, made their way up to floor 17. The bartender was close to me. I wanted very much to look away. Couldn't. They put a chain and lock on the door to the stairs. Over the next 32 minutes, the trio made their way down the hall, clearing room by method of sledgehammer entry. By the time the police were able to gain access to the floor, all 11 guests, as well as all 3 strangers, were found slaughtered. Several guests showed signs of bite marks, consumption. The 3 killers seemed to have died of their own hands, their own knives, their own teeth. The bartender finally leaned back. So, to answer your question, there's no room service available to floor 17. I like your eagerness to get to the room, Tony, but I wanted a few more drinks, Abby whined. I watched the floor numbers light up as the elevator rose. I told you, babe, the bartender was giving me the creeps. He was eyeing you funny. Probably would have put something in your drink. Abby pursed her lips. Maybe the room will have a minibar. The door slid open with a lonely ding. Thick blue carpet and peeling paint greeted us as we stepped out of the elevator. My eyes wandered the wall in front of the elevator, fixating on a cheesy painting of a family at the beach. Even the air in the hallway smelled tacky. I heard the doors click close behind us. And then I heard the rusty chime of a harmonica. Tony, Abby whispered, looking past my shoulder. I turned to my left. 3 figures were standing at the end of the hall. 2 men and a woman. The men were in the middle of wrapping a long, dull chain around the safety bar on the stairwell door. The woman was leaning against the wall, silver harmonica to her lips, watching me and Abby. The fuck? I muttered. Besides the harmonica, I could see the woman had a knife in her other hand. The men were similarly armed, the bigger one picking up a sledgehammer as they finished with the door. When all 3 turned to face us, I noticed they had painted faces. Not camouflage, more like shapes and suns and clovers, like they just left a carnival. There was a feather tucked at an angle in the woman's headband, brown and plain like from a duck. We should get back in the elevator, Abby whispered, tugging at my arm. I frowned, pieces clicking into place in my mind. They're fucking with us. Abby was already desperately slamming the open door button. What? The bartender, these fucks, the hotel staff. They're fucking with us. They're trying to scare us. I was tapping my closed fist against my leg. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not going to be mocked. Why the hell would anyone do that? Abby asked. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. Well, sweetie, the alternative is that there are 3 psycho killers walking this way. I snorted. Then I walked to meet the trio. The woman kept playing her harmonica as we grew close. Some song low and lonesome. I planted myself a few feet away from the group. I don't know what the fuck you people think. I never saw her hand move or heard the music stop. There was a blur and then more pain than I've ever experienced ripping through my stomach. I looked down to find the hilt of a kitchen knife sticking out of me just above the belly button. As I watched, too stunned to yell, the woman dragged the blade up, struggling but making terrible progress. I was an envelope being slit open. There was a loosening, and I felt my guts begin to slide, purple-red pile down to the floor. That's when I screamed, but only for a moment. The woman pulled her harmonica away long enough to sink her teeth into my throat and tear a chunk away. I fell, slipping on my own wet organs. I heard Abby scream from behind me. The trio walked over me as I bled. At least the shock made me numb as my vision blackened. Just before the world went black, I heard the harmonica start again. I opened my eyes and saw my terrified reflection in the mirrored elevator door. Abby's reflection stood next to mine. I turned to her just as she began to weep. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? She sobbed. Abby? I said. What happened? She slid down to sit on the floor of the elevator. Oh God, think I just died. I think they killed us. Oh, Tony, they were eating me. Just a dream, I whispered. Or a trick, or... The elevator drifted to a halt, and the doors opened. Ding! Abby yelped and hit the closed door button. Nothing happened. She hit it over and over again. The door stayed open. I heard the harmonica begin to play. Come on, I grunted, running without looking to see if Abby was following. I saw the trio the moment I stepped out of the elevator. They were watching me with their painted faces, already strolling down the hall. Room 1706 was 3 doors down from the elevator on the left. I've counted many times. I let out a ragged breath, half laugh and half scream when I reached the door. The trio wasn't hurrying to catch me. I had a few precious seconds to get inside. Except, I didn't have the key. Abby hadn't followed me. She was still in the elevator, and its door was still open. I could hear her crying, and even the click of the button being pressed over and over with no result. As the killers passed the elevator, the smaller man peeled off and climbed through the door. I couldn't see inside, but Abby began to shriek. My feet were rooted to the carpet. The girl and the big man were nearly to 1706 before I snapped out of my haze and turned to run. My knee popped like a grape under a boot as the big man's sledgehammer connected. I was mid-step and my leg buckled, screaming and cursing as I fell. I'll always remember the feel of the rough carpet as I tried to crawl away. Then the slight weight of the girl settled on my back. Please, I begged. Don't. The knife, cold and long, stabbed into my lower back. Once, then again. And then it scraped the bone. I realized she was cutting pieces off of me. She giggled as she ate. It took me such a long time to die. The elevator ride on our third trip felt unbearably long, yet still over too soon. Stick with me, goddammit, I whispered to Abby. Stay with me and give me the fucking key. Abby only nodded, handed me the room key, and stared as the numbers crept up toward 17. The moment the doors opened, we were moving. I only glanced back once when I heard the harmonica start. The trio was there. Of course they were there, at the end of the hall. They came towards us, but they never rushed. For one god-awful moment, the key didn't seem to fit. Please, I yelled out loud. Click. The key turned and the door opened. Abby and I stumbled inside. I slammed the door behind us, turning the lock and throwing the deadbolt. We stood, gasping for air, watching and listening for several seconds. Did we? Abby began, her question giving bloody birth to a scream as the door cracked under a heavy blow. The second hit from the sledgehammer knocked the deadbolt out, and the third opened the door. That time, at least, they were quick with us. Professional. Like they were on a schedule. But I still remember every second of it. Every bite they took. We exited the elevator that fourth time with a plan. Once we made it into the room, Abby and I immediately began to barricade the door. The dresser, the nightstands, the television, the mini-fridge. Anything in room 1706 that wasn't nailed down was quickly dragged into a palisade. I didn't think it would be enough, but when the sledgehammer boomed again and again, the door held. Wood cracked. Abby shrieked. I was starting to hate that sound. But everything held. The trio moved on, and I heard other screams facing the hammer. Other guests beginning to scream. We were safe. Christ, what if they come back? Abby asked. Tears had left twin inky rivers of mascara snaking down her cheeks. I tried the room's phone, but the line was dead. Our cell phones received no signal. All Abby and I could do was wait, stranded, hoping help would arrive. We curled up together on the bed, still fully clothed. The bartender's words struck me as I lay looking into Abby's red eyes. 32 minutes. What? Abby asked. I sat up in bed, checking the time on my phone. The bartender told me the original killing spree on floor 17 lasted for 32 minutes. We just need to sit tight and wait this out. The minutes crawled by like a wounded animal. I wasn't sure how long it had taken us to make it from the elevator into the room, then to build our barricade, but certainly not more than a few minutes. Just as my phone's stopwatch ticked up towards 29 minutes, I felt the room shift. I had to close my eyes to suppress vertigo. When I opened them, Abby and I were back in the elevator. No, 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 I yelled, pounding on the inside of the door. Abby sank to the ground and didn't move when we arrived at floor 17. Get up, I barked. We have to... What's the point? Abby asked, staring at the ground. What's the point anymore? I tried to drag her up, but she fought back with surprising ferocity. We struggled briefly, but I guess it was long enough. When I finally wrenched her purse with the key away, I turned to find the trio watching us from the elevator opening. I felt my bladder let loose, warmth running down my leg. I guess they didn't like it when we refused to run, because they made that death one of the slowest. The next time, Abby ran with me, and the time after that, and on and on. Usually, if we didn't hesitate, we would be safe. Every now and then, the barricade might not hold and the trio would get into the room. A few times, instead of their careless stroll, they would immediately run after us the second we left the elevator. But most times, we survived. 32 minutes can feel like an eternity, and only a moment. Run and wait, run and wait, run and die. Run and wait. Repeat. I lost track of how many loops we completed after the first few dozen. Maybe a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 or 1,000,000. Early on, Abby would attempt small talk or ask me to hold her. I wasn't much inclined. This is your fault, I told her after a particularly gruesome loop where our barricade didn't hold. You booked this room. You brought us here. She was silent for a long moment before responding. I'm not sure if I ever loved you, Tony. Of course not, I muttered, raiding the minibar for a drink before we reset again. Who the hell was talking about love anyway? After a lifetime of running between the elevator and room 1706, I did something I'd never done before. I started to pray. Not to God or to anyone in particular. I prayed to anyone or anything who listened. I would give anything to leave. There was a knock at the door. I froze with the television still in my arms. The last piece of our new barricade. We have an offer, came a soft call from the other side of the door. The voice was like silk-wrapped wind chimes swaying in a breeze. The woman. Whichever one of you opens the door first gets to leave. You can leave the room. This floor, this hotel. But it's a one-time offer, so act while supplies last. I could see Abby considering, eyes flitting back and forth between me and the barricade. It's a trick, I hissed. They just want in. After a moment, Abby's shoulders slumped. She nodded in agreement and closed her eyes. That gave me all of the time I needed to break the TV over her head. It only took a minute to clear the barricade. I swallowed before opening the door, but I knew it didn't really matter. If this was a trick, the worst they could do was kill me all over again. We were hoping you would be the one, the woman said, staring in through the crack in the door. The carnival face paint made her eyes look predatory. Even the duck feather felt sinister, jutting out of her headband like an ice pick raised for a lobotomy. I opened the door the rest of the way, and the three walked in. Go ahead, the woman told me as she moved towards Abby's crumpled form. Get gone. As I ran down the hallway, I found myself hoping the blow from the television had killed Abby. I owed her that much mercy, at least. By some miracle, the elevator doors were closed, and it responded when I pushed the call button. Somehow, that wait for the elevator felt longer than thousands of loops I'd experienced on floor 17. I kept anticipating a knife in the back, or, worse, a reset. When the elevator doors opened, I collapsed inside, sobbing like a lost child reunited with their mother. The ride down to the lobby may have been the happiest minutes of my life. The doors opened again on the ground floor, and all I could do was crawl out. My eyes made level with 2 pairs of boots, and I looked up. A wiry man with a mop and a short woman, both in coveralls, stared down at me. I stood up. I noticed they had name tags, the same strange brass as the other hotel staff. The man's read janitor, the woman's pest control.
"You must be the new guest on floor 17,
the janitor said, smacking his gum. I stammered, but couldn't find any words. None that would make sense.
"We're on our way to clean up,"
the janitor continued.
"It's always such a mess."
Pest control looked at me with hard eyes. She pulled out what looked like a miniature bear trap.
"For the rats,"
she whispered.
"Blood always brings them swarming."
You shouldn't bother," I said. "The whole floor, it resets, it restarts." The janitor shrugged.
"Time doesn't work the same way for everyone, everywhere. At least not in the non-dormiant. There is always disorder on that floor, and it's my obligation to have that sorted as quickly and as efficiently as I can."
Pest control grinned.
"And I just love my work."
They brushed past me into the elevator. Fuck 'em. Bunch of wackos. I ran for the lobby door. I was not going to spend a minute longer than necessary in the hotel. As I passed the front desk, though, I came up short. The concierge was watching me, light glinting from his glasses so much I couldn't make out his eyes. There was another man with him behind the desk. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a car salesman's grin and a rock star's long hair. The name tag read, Public Relations.
"Checking out?"
the concierge asked. I could only nod weakly. Public Relations gestured me forward, and I obeyed. He slid a document across the desk.
"We understand you may not have had the most enjoyable experience here at the Hotel Non-Dormiant. We certainly apologize, but would appreciate if you signed a basic non-disclosure agreement."
I signed without reading. "Can I go?"
"Of course."
Public Relations flashed his teeth.
"Please do, and go with our sincerest apologies."
I turned to leave.
"In fact, as a sign of goodwill, I want you to know that your next stay with us will be on the house."
I let out an insane giggle.
"Well, gee, I appreciate that, but I don't think I'll be back here anytime soon." "Are you sure?"
the concierge asked, checking his computer.
"It looks like your next stay is already booked." "No,"
I whispered.
"Yes. I've double-checked,"
he said.
"Your same room. 1706.
Then he told me the date.
That's so soon,"
I said, breathing hard.
"That's too soon. I would like to cancel." "I'm sure you would,"
the concierge replied.
"But that's not how it works. If I were you, I'd enjoy the time you have until your next reservation. It looks like you have the room booked for a very, very long stay."
I left the hotel in a daze, bumping into people in the street as I walked. It seems I wasn't granted a reprieve, only a delay. I wonder what Abby will say when I return. Maybe I should pick her up a gift. Something in the way of apology. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jordan Group Horror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content, You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you, which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.